streamed on YouTube.
Hey, all right.
Bye, YouTube. How's that feedback treating you?
I think that's okay. Are people hearing them? Yep, we've got people hearing you.
Okay,
Great news.
perfect. I don't know if you can see us. We're trying to be as tight as possible without being awkward.
We can see you.
Okay.
Great.
Well, why don't we get started? Are you there?
Yes. Okay, I'll leave it on. Yeah. Okay, I'm here, but everybody else is kind of like over that way, so you can't see them. So if
Okay.
people have questions, we're getting them to come out and stand in front of the computer and talk to you. So everybody's seeing you about 4 yards high.
Hey, all right.
Wow. How's my forehead look? So, well, we'll get started and just interrupt if there are any more technical issues, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So, hi everyone. I'm Ollie Sanitas, and
I'm Nick Taylor.
we are, I guess, the Google Glass guys from Arapahhoe Library District. Before we start speaking too much, I thought we'd show you a couple videos, and I know Ellen's going to help us with that. The first video is a news story that we received locally as a result of the Google Glass acquisition, and it does a pretty good job of illustrating what we're doing with them. And the second one is actually it's a piece of our application where Nick speaks to Google. So if we want to go ahead and run those, we'll just sit here and be quiet and wait.
Okay, I'll play them now.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're going to live with this. I'm not playing around with it anymore.
Well, the magic word is usually abracadabra, but this time around it's OK Glass. It's new wearable technology. Works just with a few words or a swipe of your finger.
Yeah, it might sound like something out of a sci-fi film, but it's becoming a reality for some folks here in the metro area. It's now available to test out at some of our local libraries. 9 News reporter Corey Rhodes explains the technology behind Google Glass.
It may look bizarre, but this is the technology of the future. Google Glass is basically a tiny computer that's worn like glasses.
It's kind of almost like bifocals in reverse. So I'm looking straight ahead and I can see you and I can see all, people standing right behind you. But if I look up for a second, then I can see what's on the screen behind me.
It's similar to a smartphone, but hands-free, and allows you to search the internet, read articles, and take and send pictures with just these simple words.
OK, Glass.
And just a few swipes of the hand.
Jen is actually seeing everything that we're seeing up here on her screen, just using the touch pad that's built into the side of the glasses. Swipe through these cards.
Google 9news.com. There we go. OK, Glass. Take a picture. So here's the photo I just took.
And then from there, you can even share it with any of your Google Plus contacts. This technology isn't even available for public purchase yet. Earlier this year, the Arapahhoe County Library District entered in a contest to be part of the Google Explorer program. And in April, they found out they were chosen.
We love the idea of just having beta technology, the type sort of being the equalizer between the general public and ourselves. Having the type of technology that people wouldn't necessarily have the capital or even the reason to buy at home. But when we buy it, we can share it with multiple people and really let everybody use it.
Which is a good thing, considering the estimated cost for one of these, $1,500. Many are calling this technology a game changer. Now a game changer everyone can try out for themselves.
One of the quickest and coolest ways to really just show the libraries redefining themselves.
Corey Rose, 9 News.
Definitely want to give that a try. Maybe the price will come down in a few years, kind of like plasma TVs happening. But this story was shot at the Castlewood Library, but eventually Google Glass will be available at all the Arapahhoe Library District locations.
And the best part is Google Glass is actually going on tour. The first stop, Tagawa Gardens, Friday, September 13th. Check out the Arapahhoe Library's website. It has a list of all their stops, and you can go to anyone you want. That is also on our website, 9news.com.
Now, another option is the district's Book a Librarian program. All you got to do is call 303 Library to make an appointment with a librarian at a location near you. They kind of walk you through, I guess, some of the steps to be able to use this. Librarians are much more qualified these days. They do a lot more than you would think in the past, and they'll teach you the ins and the outs of glass and show you just how to use it for research.
Yeah, Corey really said we're moving into the future, and this, I guess, really is the future. So it's more than dusty books this time around here.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Public libraries aren't always known for embracing new technology, but we feel that we're on our way there. The Arapahhoe Library District wants to share Google Glass with our 200,000 patrons to foster new and innovative ideas. Do you know what libraries are known for? Sweet glasses.
Hey, all right.
Hey.
Hello, they were great.
Oh, thanks.
Hey.
All right. Recognize this guy now?
Yeah. I was happy to hear the.
I'm just going to stop something in the background there.
Okay.
Sorry. We're back with you now.
All right. I appreciated the polite chuckle at my joke, so thanks for that.
So here they are. I think again. We were going to try to do this cool virtual display and broadcast through the glass, but logistics took over, and now I'm going to try to do something even crazier. I'm trying to let you see the glass. See that little screen there? That is what you see when you have the glass on. And I'm cycling through some tiles. I know this is probably difficult to see, but there you go. So that's what the glass look like, and we actually have more than one pair. Arapahhoe Library District has 5 pair, actually, but here are 2. They come in fashionable colors. I'm sure you all know orange when you're feeling a little bold.
Whoa, it's tangerine.
Sorry, tangerine. or a slate gray when you're feeling just a little more conservative. You know, you don't want to stand out quite as much. But here they are. All right.
So how are you using them in your library service? How are you taking them out in the community looking at them?
What a fantastic segue. We're actually going to get right to that. A little bit more of our justification later in the presentation. I think Ollie was first going to tell us about kind of the journey to get them and what happened after our application got accepted.
Yeah, we have a quick presentation. We'll go through it, and then we want to take lots of questions.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Why don't we share the screen?
Okay. So we're just going to screen share our Prezi really quick here. We have a lovely presentation for you.
Everybody cross your fingers.
Are you seeing it okay?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect.
We were, but we now not now.
Not now?
Not now.
Maybe take it off full screen. You see it now?
No.
No.
Go to just hit allow on that error message.
It really was there before.
It was?
It was a flash screen.
A flash of green. Well, we may have to wing it.
Let's try one more time.
Okay, we're going to try one more time, and then...
If we just share the desktop.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah. Now you should see our desktop.
Yes.
Okay, do you see the Prezi?
We see the Prezi.
Great.
Yay. Here's the technology.
So there's our lovely news story and our application and the journey. Ollie, you want to talk about the journey a little bit?
Sure. So when we decided to embark on the Google Glass adventure, it started, we actually had a vision behind this even before we acquired Glass. And really, at Arapahhoe Library District, what we like to do is we try to share technology with our patrons that's kind of out of their reach as an average consumer. A lot of that, like Glass is a perfect example, and then we do other things like 3D printers, Oculus Rift, but the whole point is we're trying to find technology that's just slightly out of their reach because it's either like Google Glass beta technology or maybe something that's maybe a little expensive, which Google Glass falls into that category too, or maybe it's something that they don't want to take a risk on themselves. And we take the risk for them. So that woman that you see in the screen, that's Jessica. She's our marketing director, and it was actually, we're giving credit to her because it was her idea to pursue Google Glass. And she was watching the Today Show. I don't know if you know what the Today Show is, but it's a very popular show in the United States. And she saw that they were taking applications for people to become Glass Explorers. And the kicker of it, when she saw it, the applications were due the next day. So lucky for us, she put together an application, and Nick pitched in to film that video you all enjoyed. And from then, the journey started. We heard about 6 weeks later via Twitter that we were selected and that they would tell us, they would tweet us back when we could come pick them up. And by pick them up, they meant we had to fly to a Google facility in San Francisco. And I don't know if you're familiar with the geography of the United States. Colorado is about 2,000 miles from San Francisco, so we had to fly there, stay in a hotel. So that's what I had the unenviable task of having to fly to San Francisco with Jessica to go to Google headquarters. I know, it was tough, believe me. But when we did, we were invited to go inside, and they had built, if you're familiar with San Francisco, it's got lots of beautiful views. And they built, in one of their office buildings, they built kind of a retail center to distribute glass. And we had a view of the Bay Bridge and the bay. It was pretty picturesque. They offered us drinks and lunch, but the whole point there was for them to explain the product to us and kind of evangelize the product. And we spent, I want to say, about an hour getting trained on glass. And honestly, the biggest part of it was actually fitting it to our face, because it's really important how it's aligned so you can see the little tiny screen. And we had our glass, I don't know what we call her, our glass genius, sorry, Apple. Her name was Dizzy. She was super cool, and she was asking us what we were planning on doing in Glass. Well, as a library, our plan was to share it with other people. And what was cool about that is Dizzy had never heard anyone say that they were going to do that before. She was super excited about that. And Google's been really behind the fact that we're sharing it with folks. And so after that, Jessica walked around San Francisco with it, and we kind of got to play with it. But then, now that's just the journey of how we got it. I think what you'd be much more interested in and what we're doing with it now. And that's where Nick's going to come in. So I'm going to let Nick, the sort of glass patron guru, take over.
All right, and please interrupt us if there's any problems or anything. We'll definitely leave some time at the end for any questions that you all have. But I just wanted to rewind a bit and kind of talk about our justification for use here, why we thought this was a great thing to do for our patrons. And part of the idea here is that there's already this raised bar of basic tech access that are at public libraries. You know, nearly every public library offers public access to the internet. The majority of them provide software training, one-on-one assistance, you know, computer classes. These should all sound pretty familiar to most of the public libraries that at least I know. We conducted a usage study in our own libraries just a few years ago. We found that nearly half of all of our patrons inside of our libraries were either using our computers or connected to our Wi-Fi with a personal device or a tablet. And going along with that, we saw that we had an average of 4,600 Wi-Fi logins a month in 2012, and then that grew to 5,833 a month. So all of this data we kind of collated it, coalesced it, and just found that clearly there's an audience of people who use and access this tech within our libraries. It's growing, and we thought that there was perhaps room to meet further needs. So we did end up expanding our tech offerings, while, of course, keeping what everybody loves about libraries, the books, the reader's advisory, and so forth. But we expanded our offerings. We ended up putting in media labs to a couple of our libraries with recording equipment, with cameras, with green screens, things like that. We've also started a device checkout program where people can check out GoPro cameras and Nooks to take home with them and try those. So we really feel that we've kind of reached a critical mass. We can move on from just providing access to this and really kind of find this more new and unique experience for our patrons and technology. So luckily for us, our directors very much agreed. I'm actually sitting with our director of digital services here, but our executive director very much felt that these ideas were in line with our mission, so much so that she made it a part of our strategic plan. So this is kind of her idea behind it, is that we're really redefining libraries. We're really trying to get people away from thinking that we're just, you know, a building with books in it, and that's all. So there's my coworker Jen with the glass. I personally wear glasses, so I usually prefer to find someone without them to model them for me. So this is her doing a great job of that. So I wanted to talk about the whys a little bit. Why that we felt glass was important to us. It really seized an opportunity. You know, as Ollie had said, it was just this limited time offer. You know, all products must go sort of situation. It is truly exclusive. We really have the benefit of being, as far as we can tell, the only library with these, and you know, one of only maybe a dozen or a couple of dozen people in our state with them. So that really brings people in. That really, we have that exclusivity. Certainly from witnessing patrons with it, it really sparks curiosity. We do a number of kind of showroom on the floor type demonstrations with Google Glass, and people are always really excited and curious to see it. And then when they actually interact with it, you know, one of my favorite things to see is giving it to a family, you know, a mom and dad and some younger kids, and usually the kids will pop them on and figure everything out, and then a couple minutes later they'll be teaching mom and dad. So that's really fun to see, and it's kind of a fairly good example of how they're a pretty intuitive device. So really the our motivation for having Google Glass at the library was to change this public perception, just simply having that conversation with patrons as to why does the library have Google Glass? Being able to have that starting point of that conversation has been really helpful. Obviously the PR has been good. That's how you guys found out about us. You saw that news story, so positive PR is always a great thing. We've kind of done these atypical library events and programs that have attracted new patrons and new attention. This is not the type of things that people usually suspect their public library to be doing. So we've seen lots of new patrons for this. And then finally, just in terms of a philosophical thing, traditionally we've offered basic computer classes, basic technology assistance for our patrons, but there's kind of this entire untapped audience of more tech-savvy patrons that, we can be offering more services to. And so we really liked the idea of doing that as well. And just because Ollie's here, I'm going to put some words in his mouth. Here's a quote from him, I believe that he put into Library Journal. And I really like this one because it specifically talks about, how this still fits into a traditional library philosophy. Letting people use beta technology, exposing them to it, it's simply another way to make the library a place of discovery. So we thought we'd give you a couple of best practices as well, just in terms of if you were thinking of taking on a similar program, certainly in public library, could be a cool thing to see happen. Beta technology is inherently a risky investment. Google Glass actually just recently went on sale officially, so the public can officially buy it. I think we've still got fairly good exclusivity because not too many people just want to run out there and spend $1,500 on a pair of these. But that's one of those examples we really had to get our mileage out of them while we could. We had to work pretty quickly to do a lot of these events and show as many people as we possibly could to make it a worthwhile investment. And beta technology by definition doesn't always catch on. It may not be the next big thing. It may just kind of be cool science fiction, but that's okay too. What we've taught our staff just in terms of beta technology, it doesn't always work. There are bugs, but those setbacks can become opportunities. We always want people to work through it and really talk to people about, in beta technology, bugs and things that go wrong, that's how we make it better. And then in terms of staffing, I'm going to leave that to Ollie to talk about mostly, but we really have found that we need staff to champion this technology. That's how we've sort of ensured our own success. Getting your own Nick to talk about Google Glass with people and really be excited about it is very necessary. It doesn't. There's some legwork involved for sure. And then in terms of training, we just pretty much just put it in the hands of our staff so they could play with it and see it and just use it themselves and be a part of the fun. So we do kind of want to talk about where we've expanded from this, the other beta technology that we've done at ALD. So one of the things that we discovered from this is, we kind of did this in a showroom style where, or we were thinking that we could do this in more of a showroom style. We've done lots of events where we've showed Google Glass programs at the library, but, we thought if we had a more permanent fixture, say a bar, a tech bar inside of our branches that's specifically for showcasing tech. Excuse me. That could really be beneficial. We've expanded a few of our maker spaces in our libraries. We're building a hacker space that's going to kind of be Arduino and related, maybe a soldering bench, really getting into that kind of tinkering with technology and truly making things. We do have some other beta technologies, such as the Oculus Rift and the 3D printer, a MakerBot 3D printer. More of that technology that's kind of out of the realm of your general household, not something that someone necessarily walks down to their local store and just picks up and buys. We really love this idea of finding technology on Kickstarter, this kind of technology that's not quite ready yet, but we were thinking we could position ourselves as, beta testing hosts. If we can establish ourselves as good homes for these, we can talk to technology startups, we can talk to developers to use our libraries as those testing grounds where we have tech-savvy staff to show it off and patrons who are excited to see it. So I know that was a pretty quick run-through, but here's our information if you want to talk to us some more. I think Ollie's going to give us a nice capper on this. That's what I kept him around for. And we, of course, would love to answer any of your questions as well.
We'll turn on the screen share. Turn it up. So while Nick's getting pictures of us back on, I don't feel any pressure at all because I'm supposed to put a capper on this. But anyway, the last thing I want to just say formally before we open it up for questions is what really has made the difference with the Google Glass project is the quality of the staff we put, and because it ultimately, any technology we buy, and believe me, we've tried some pretty fantastic technologies. I've never seen one succeed like Google Glass, and it's because it's 100% because of the staff and the staff's willingness to take it on and willingness to be champions. And I guess I'm kind of, this is my baby, so I'm kind of proud to announce it to you all. We've created a department that works on the public service floor now, and that department reports to me in IT, and Nick is the new supervisor. Yay, Nick. So, and all with the hope that we're going to provide just a much better experience to our patrons because of the fact that we've invested in specific staff on the floor and we're training them, and they're learning how to muddle through with Glass or any other beta technology we throw at you. So with that is all of our formal presentation. I would love to hear questions, and I'm particularly interested in your ideas of how you think you could use Google Glass at the library, because we've clearly just focused on the patrons here and just getting them to touch it. And we have a question. Yep. Or not.
Sorry, it's me again.
Okay.
My question is about local studies, because I think it would be just so lovely to have Google Glass on, say, a walking tour. You have someone leading the walking tour, wearing the glass, and potentially streaming back to another site, but also potentially getting information as they're going about the site. But it was also work on, say, discovering areas. They could be hazardous for other people to walk into, so of course send a library staff member into a dangerous location. That's not quite what I mean, but it's like maybe you can only send one person in and it's an old industrial site, but someone can be describing the machinery that they're seeing as a way of recording local studies stories. I don't know, I seem to have a bit of a war with, I just think it'd be so exciting for local studies. Mind you, I just like to play with glass anyway. I'll just, be out there as a fan of it. But, yeah, I just think it'd be really exciting for local studies things. So I was wondering if you'd been thinking about that.
Well, it's not really in our bailiwick. It's just our community isn't really, how do I say this without being, it's a new community, so there's not a lot of, not a lot of history to look at. But I remember, Ellen, when we talked earlier, you talked about this idea, and I think it's fantastic. And I think the whole idea of a virtual tour through someone else's eyes is a great idea. We haven't personally done that, but having used them, I think it's the perfect tool for it. I don't know, Nick, if you have anything to...
I mean, I was just thinking we're opening up a new branch up in our Sheridan location, and I was just thinking of how cool it would be for, staff who are traditionally kind of tied to one library branch and maybe don't get to go to many other places on their own time. Why not set up a virtual tour of it? Or if we open up one of our snazzy new maker spaces, we could do kind of a walking tour through it and show that.
That sounds like a lot of fun. That does actually sound like a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get a few people who would like to ask you some questions so that you're not stuck with Martin and I asking questions. I think it's just really exciting how you're using it, but I also like the way that it's part of a broader strategy around the technology, that you've got an Oculus Rift and a few things like that. Your community must love it. Oh,
they eat it up. We just had a tech fair where we showed off a lot of the technology, and I look at the stats, and our stats were up. Gosh, I can't do math in my head, and I would certainly not do it in a live stream to Australia. But it was by a lot more people. I think we had at least 500 people walk through the doors just for that tech fair.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for the presentation today. Sure. Thanks for also talking about staff championing the new technology. I think that really is the key for getting the staff on board, and that's what sells it to the customers. I had two things to say. In terms of a suggestion, does Google Glass work well in terms of its connection speed with QR codes? If you had them positioned in the library to expand on collections, there might be an electronic alternative to an analog copy that you're looking at.
Right. Yeah, just to speak quickly, I think it works wonderfully with QR codes. As a matter of fact, in the process of connecting to a new Wi-Fi network, you actually have to connect on whatever device you've attached it to, be it a tablet or a smartphone. And in order for it to pair up, it actually uses a QR code that will appear on your smartphone just to pass the data. So yeah, it's perfectly suited for that.
Okay, great. The other thing I was going to say, it's a bit more of a mundane thing, but you were talking about loaning technology and devices for people to take away from the library. Is there any successful model that you guys have used for that, given that these things are maybe more valuable than a book and you want to get them back in one piece?
Right. Yeah, and something like we have a different way of lending things depending on the device. We do actually lend iPads, and we do it primarily on trust. So I don't know how else to say this. We have a threshold of theft and loss that we can handle, and so long as we stay within that threshold, we try to keep the user experience as pure as possible. We'll try to avoid things like requiring credit cards before they circulate, because obviously that's a divider. Not everyone who we would like to experience this has a credit card. The other thing we try to do is we try to pick products that we can replace, budgetarily speaking. Now, that being said, glass is not something that we would circulate publicly. We circulate it within the building with a staff member there. We wouldn't check that device out to you. But one thing we do, and we're really successful at, is we circulate GoPro cameras, and those actually, we've had very, very few problems. And price point wise, they're similar to iPad minis. They're $300 American, and that's a threshold that we're willing to take. Quite frankly, some of our ebook, our physical audiobooks cost that much anyway, so we've been able to make that precedent. But and I'm blabbering on a little bit, but our line of acceptable risk is $300 American. That's where we won't pass. If it's more than that, we would take extra measures to secure the technology.
Hi, fellas. My name's Craig. I was just wondering about the competition that you were talking about. I found that a really interesting idea. And I was just wondering about what, if you know much about who you're competing against, or what other types of organisations, and what perhaps gave you guys an edge, or what you think gave libraries an edge, and also how have you found working with a non-library, non-government organisation like Google, and has there been any sort of clashes of expectations or ways you've managed that relationship? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The competition was nationwide, and what I can say is I don't know a great deal about the other people because it was really done via Twitter. So you had to tweet with the hashtag if I had a glass. And what I can tell you is they listed all the winners, and I actually went through, and there were quite a few. I think there were 5,000 people in the United States. There were very few institutions because they gear it towards individuals. And in fact, I think there was another person who claimed to work for a library but wasn't attributing the award as a library, and she just talked about how she would use it at a library. That was her proposal, and it was, I don't even remember. It was something somewhat mundane in terms of I would look at the books and kind of do something like that, like visual cataloging. But for the most part, I think who we were competing with were developers and other people who would evangelize the technology. And I think what gave us a competitive edge really was our proposal, because we did talk about, we have 250,000 cardholders. We talked about we would share them with that community, and I think that was really appealing. We, in essence, for Google, as far as Google's concerned, we became another marketing firm for them, and we've been a pretty good marketing firm for them. And in terms of working with them, it hasn't, we haven't established a strong relationship in the sense that we call them up and we talk about strategy together. It's been more of a support relationship when something's wrong. And the only thing that I can say in terms of clashes, we really haven't had any clashes. But the thing I thought was funny is they changed their terms of services for Google Glass Explorers right after they awarded it, the glass to us, and they said you can't lend them to people. That was strictly forbidden. And we said, wait a second, in our proposal we said we're going to lend them to people. And we're a library. And as it turns out, it didn't make that big of a difference because our model landed on we're showrooming them in a library. They're not actually leaving our walls without staff present. But that said, it was kind of funny.
Hi, fellas. My name's Martin. We've just had a question come in via Twitter about privacy around Google Glass. So I guess this person's just wondering if you've got people walking around the library wearing Google Glass, do you get any feedback from other people in the library worried about their privacy? And I think that could be probably expanded to just more generally, other people in the library seeing it, and does that generate interest? Has that generated any negative feedback in terms of, why is the library spending money on these things? Any kind of negative feedback, privacy issues, or is it just all positive?
Sure. I mean, so it is certainly the type of device that if you're wearing it, people will stare at you and say, "What is that on your face?" So certainly we've had people wear it on the reference desk just for the heck of it, just for fun. I do know there had been some privacy concerns just about simply having a camera, on your face and you could just snap pictures. But it's so not subtle that I don't think there's any concern about me wearing these and then not knowing that I'm taking a picture of you. I mean, it's pretty hard to be secretive about that. In terms of Google's privacy in general, my boss would certainly have a few words with Google about that. But just with the glass, we haven't had too many concerns about that. And then in terms of the patron reaction, it has been largely positive. We do get a lot of people that just say, but why does the library have this at all? And then we of course just pull up that Prezi and then kind of line it up, 15. No, just kidding. but yeah, kind of the same general ideas that we're giving them about it. But yeah, I haven't heard too much negative feedback.
No, I'll chime in a little. We had, in terms of the patron feedback, there's always the risk of the more traditional, the traditional users thinking, why are you spending money on this? And my strategy is, and we've had a couple, glass is not an either-or proposition for our patrons. We don't buy glass and not buy books. We allocate our budget, and I'm in charge of the collection budget, and I can assure you that budget has not dropped at all. So that's what I kind of say. We're still offering you traditional services. We're just, from the technology realm, we're focusing a little bit of energy in some interesting things. And for the most part, that satisfies people. I know you will always run into those people who want to define what a library is, and we don't meet their expectation of what that is. But I think that's true with almost anything you do. And so, because that's the same thing as challenging an item in your collection. So, but it really has not been a significant problem. And considering all the press we've gotten around it, I think we're doing okay.
Okay, I think we've got one more question.
Okay.
Time for one more question.
Hi, I just actually have a really practical question. I know, Nick, you mentioned before that you wear glasses, so you get other people to model them. I obviously wear glasses, so how do they work in terms of if you're nearsighted or farsighted? Obviously you have to take your glasses off to put them on, so can you actually see what is on the screen, or how does it work?
Unfortunately, I kind of have to wear them like this, which yeah, it doesn't look nearly as cool as you can see. And the screen, the projection is supposed to kind of mimic what a TV screen would look like from 10 feet away. So it really is pretty difficult to see if you're what would that be? Nearsighted. If you can't see from distance. So the current solution is to certainly just put them on over and look through that way. I do know there had been talk about perhaps designing one that would just hook on to the arm of your glasses like so. And I think they were working with this glasses manufacturer called Warby Parker, or at least there were rumors of such a thing happening where they would maybe just design it within altogether.
Okay, I'll get back. The other one other thing, you walked away, but I'll still talk. They do have. I'm trying to show you the glass. I can't really see. But okay, so they do have a clip-on lens that you can put. It sort of clips in, see this area here? And it looks kind of like sports glasses. And what I've heard is they are actually going to make prescription versions of that. So I think they've got a solution for it. And the last thing, this is really the brain of the glass here, this piece and this lens here. And then this is the battery. What I think they're going to do is attach this to actual prescription frames. So those glasses you're wearing, they might have a glass attachment for them in the future.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Unless there's any other
Thank you. This has been brilliant. Thank you so much. And I think people have got a much better understanding about Google Glass and the possibilities, because we really have very few in Australia. The count that I saw about a month ago was there were 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll get some great ideas about when they become a bit more available here. But thank you so much for your time today. This has been absolutely brilliant. Please join me with thanking them.
Thanks for having us.
See ya.
Bye-bye.